Hey there. Okay. I had this idea recently to record a clip about how to be a better gamer or how to become a good gamer because I'm 46. I've been playing games all my life since the Pong and Pong were two little things flying like that, and there was a ball and you were bouncing it off, and you had a controller with up and down motion. That was first console I had when I was, I think, I don't know, 10 or 11, which was like over 30 years ago. And then we had knockoffs of first Nintendos with Mario Bros, with games like Contra. Anyone remembers Contra? That was such a cool game. Anyway, so since then we've been playing games. I've been playing, and I started eventually playing poker online. I got really fascinated by that game. Initially, I was playing on like online game casinos, so it wasn't on real money, and then I started playing on casinos online for a little money, but it was poker. It wasn't another type of gaming. Anyway, eventually, at some point, my internet died at home, and as I was having time off, don't remember, that was nearly 30 years ago, or maybe even over. I moved to internet cafe for a little while because I knew that my friends were there, and they were playing Counter Strike. And at that point, that was Counter Strike. That was the first edition. I wasn't completely interested. Shooting, killing, and stuff like that. I'm playing poker. I was the serious one. But at some point, the server I was playing was down. While I was in internet cafe, the poker server was down. Everybody else is playing Counter Strike. And they're like, come on, man, come on, try it. It's easy. You just go like that, you shoot with the mouse. I got sucked into that like crazy, for 2 years. I spent 2 years in internet cafe. That was the beginning of Counter Strike. We're going through version 1.1 to 1.6, eventually turning into the Steam or Stream. Don't remember even. That was so long time ago. And I stopped playing because I moved to Australia and I started different career. But while I was spending my 2 years of my life in the internet cafe in Grenet in Poland, Counter Strike was magnificent for me because it actually opened the concept of training with using games, and it inspired me. This is the experience I have from that game. It's a massive inspiration to make that clip because look, you're gonna have a lot of movies on YouTube with people saying you have to practicing, you have to watch people, you have to do that, and in order to be good in this game you have to train that, and angles and target shooting and yada yada yada. Okay, those are skills you can gain. I wanna propose something for this thing. So in order to be a good gamer, I would like to propose and highlight three factors I think each one of us can focus on developing in general gaming. This is like a general skills which will help you in every game you play ultimately. And then ultimately, because you keep training yourself, your brain, and this is the focus. This is the conscious focus on the training part. You take those skills into your life later on. And the three things I'm talking about, it's time of the reaction, which is commonly known as reflex, your perception. Okay, and now you can have few perceptions because you can have perception of yourself, your skills, your abilities. You can have a perception of the game, you can have perception of the map you're playing, abilities of your character, abilities of other characters, and so on. There's a lot of layers. And the third one is the coordination. Okay, so for me, for example, coming back to the example with the Counter-Strike, initially as a poker player and PlayStation player, I wasn't coordinated enough with mouse and keyboard. And when we had configs, which means that you had to run a file which was setting up this shortcuts through across the keyboard, so you can buy things easier or get them to do stuff easier. Um, yeah, there were shortcuts, for example, with aiming, so you don't have to zoom on top. It just you press and it zooms automatically. Now games are doing this automatically. Back in the day, we had to set that manually. I mean, you could have a file with your configuration of your buttons and everything. And Counter-Strike was fantastic because with the simplicity of graphics, you play Call of Duty right now and people don't feel it, but the amount of detail your eyes are being exposed to on the screen, it's so much more overwhelming and exhausting for your perception and brain. While when we train on Counter-Strike, the first Counter-Strikes, the graphics was quite simple. The buildings, the textures, there wasn't too much detail of it. So time of the reaction, I got inspired in Counter-Strike by a guy called Neo. Bro, if you get to watch this movie, fucking legend. I was already an adult teenager. I was like 18, 19, maybe even 20, maybe something a little bit older. When Neo came to Grenade, and he was like 12 or 13, and at that point he was already, I think, Polish or European champion in Quake 3. This crazy fast game. He was untouchable. He was banned on majority of Polish servers because people thought that he has aimbot, because the moment, like, you sit behind, you stand behind him in the cafe, in the internet cafe, and you see the character, and before you even realize that there's something happening on the screen, he was already giving a headshot to that person. Like, he was so ridiculously fast, this kid. It was crazy, but sitting next to him, I'm considering myself as a quite intelligent and capable. So whenever I feel like I'm putting, something to a test and I want to gain the skill, I'm gaining it, and I'm always pushing to get it as good as I can. I'm thinking, okay, if he can be that fast, maybe I can get faster, and I started training. And the simplification of graphics in Counter-Strike really was helpful, because I spent a couple of months just running, and the focus was to get a headshot with whatever gun I was having. Usually I was getting a USP gun because it was very, very fast and quite it was really getting that headshot really nicely. And then to the point that we actually started challenging ourselves to go to Swedish clans, which at that point, those guys used to play on LANs with hacks, with wall hacks, aim hacks, with whatever hacks they could get hands on. And they were learning the game. They were learning which walls you can shoot through, stuff like that, And also they develop walking faster than normal walking, but not as fast as running. So you actually walk a little much faster than normally, but you don't make sound. As soon as you make sound, you get shot from like 3 or 4 spots on Swedish servers. So their level was crazy, crazy high. And before we figured out their system, we were actually doing a lot of clan wars with those guys. And first weeks we had no idea what the fuck is going on. We just get shot. There's nobody, like, you don't see anyone, you don't hear anyone, and you get headshots, and obviously they shoot through walls. So we started watching how they play, and we're talking 30 years back. Okay, 30, not 2-3 years, 30, like 30. So we were catching up with them, getting some friendships and stuff like that. And they told us what they were doing, and we were like, nobody from us figured out. So we started playing with wall hacks on our servers, on our LANs inside of cafeteria, to learn all the maps and stuff like that. And when we started playing league and championships and stuff like that, we were kicking ass, so other clans caught up very quickly. So at that point, we started looking for a leverage, for what we can do better than others to actually score, because now we all know the tricks, we all run quietly, we all, it's all common knowledge. So it's more about your inner skill, how quickly you can respond, how well you know the map. So you can, for example, if you hear that the guys are there, you're running backwards, waiting for them to show a pixel so you can get them, right? But you have to run backwards, so you're not running in a corner and you're stuck in that corner. You have to run and maneuver throughout the map, running backwards, not looking where you can learn those skills. It's like memory. You can suck with memorizing things, and then you can practice that, and then eventually you will memorize things. Like I remember stuff right now. I pushed a lot about it, and it's exercise. For example, if you don't remember, someone introduced themselves to you and you don't remember their name, And there's a very easy exercise to repeat that name 3 times as soon as possible when you hear it. Like, oh, hi, Tom. You, Tom. Really nice to meet you, Tom. And now you're gonna memorize that name for a couple of more minutes. If you go through that name a couple of more times, you'll have it. And then eventually, you develop the ability to memorizing. Your memory slots are much more flexible, and it's easier to access all the little details. Time of the reaction you can develop on shooters, for example, first-person shooters. This is something which strictly translates to the ability to drive car. For example, if you play Clan Wars, which means that there is a bit of pressure if you mess stuff up, and if you we had finals, Polish finals years ago, and one of our clan members threw a grenade in the wrong window and he killed the whole clan. I wasn't playing then with the guys, it was my clan, but I wasn't particularly in that moment with them. He was being hated and crucified every single time we see the guy. It's this kind of responsibility. So there is a little bit of extra. You can put a bit of extra pressure on yourself to motivate and mobilize yourself to get those better scores and better effects. But ultimately, coordination. There's a beautiful game called BeatStar, which is just music, and you play falling tiles and you hit to the rhythm. I've been playing this game over 3 years right now. I'm about to make a clip about benefits from playing this particular game, but you have 3 tracks and just 3. You don't need 4, you don't need more. They can make your life miserable with the amount of tiles and arrows and things you have to actually do to make it perfect with the music on time. And because it's music, it's fun. And you can get psycho and you can start grinding, or you can be what I'm actually training. So I'm training coordination, so I ought to be relaxed. So I'm playing games, I'm not putting any pressure in that game. I play for enjoyment and for increasing my overall coordination, which means that if there is a hard or a very difficult song with a lot of tiles and stuff, I'm gonna first try to go through before. By just playing, I will naturally learn the patterns, so I know the song by heart, which eventually actually allows music from musicality point of view, digest that music from 10 million different points of view, especially that the game is forcing me to actually play different elements of it, and then different harder version of the same song will give you different segments of the music which they use to create patterns. And then what you can do, you can try to play that whole song only with your right hand, or only with your left hand, or whenever you have double taps, instead of doing that, you can go crosses, and then you go another way. And I must tell you, you play normal boring song with double taps, but you try different setups and it sweats your brain like crazy. Then what happens, a few months after, you play extreme song and your fingers are just there. You don't think about it. You're just observing, you're participating in the situation when your body watches, analyzes, and responds, and you sit next to it and you munch on popcorn and you're like, damn, stuff like that, and you feel the improvement. BeatStar is beautiful because you start with certain songs and you have those songs throughout. So for example, first extreme song, which I remember fried my head so many times. Right now I literally remember by heart, and I can do it with closed eyes, and it's the speed of your processes in the brain. It's not just the familiarity with the song, it's the fact that, hey, you don't get overwhelmed when there's something overwhelming. You go, okay, wait a minute, and you apply the processes you've learned throughout enjoyment, training with your favorite game when nobody busts your chops. Okay, so that's the perception. That's the time of, perception, we're about to mention it. So what we said it's important to have time of the reaction, which in my opinion, first person shooters are the best to practice. Of course, obviously nowadays the game will offer you much simplified target shooting practice and stuff like that, but it's not about your ability to aim. That will come naturally and automatically when you start being quick. What you wanna do when you aim, you start thinking and you start analyzing, and you wanna aim. That takes shitloads of time. So this is absolutely opposite to what we want. We want to be quick. So first you want to get that target, and then what happens is, depending, are you playing on the pad or using a mouse, and with the sensitivity and everything, with all the setup, you will develop the ability to find the particular pixel you want, because the quickness you're gonna get there will give you the margin of error. So for example, there is your enemy jumping, and you see each other at the same moment, right? Now, because okay, and fuck it, I'm gonna say it, I don't see any single streamer training that. Like, from the time of the reaction, we were so much quicker 20 years ago in Counter-Strike. Ultimately, it's about your quickness and the time of your response, regardless. Is it something requiring increased coordination, or just simply out be quicker than your opponent? And they might try to go for that headshot while you're gonna get them. And now you know that the first shot will shoot them, so it will be much harder for them to shoot. And that's when you start feeling, that's where you can start having first headshots, and then you play and you learn to go particularly on the head. One little hint I remember, I'll never forget that: stop running with crosshair aiming in the ground. If you want to have headshots, run with the crosshair where are the headshots, and naturally you'll just learn how to keep that level. That's all it is. If you have any ideas with other games who can explore and increase the time of your action, please drop them in comments. I wouldn't mind to check them out myself. I'm not talking about the like pure reflex games. I'm talking about the you need to create a kind of action in order to increase the whole process. So it's the hand movement, the click, which ultimately it's like a little combination. For example, you drive a car, something happens, you're not gonna go, you know that there has to be a gear reduction, you have to do something with pedals, anticipate what this car does. Those type of games give you that margin of that little pause in the process, that you can really analyze very quickly what's happening, because you're not freaking out anymore. Guys, in terms of perception works on all sorts of games. So for example, I'm really exploring mobile games. Actually, you can check out in one of the playlists. I'll have best mobile games. In my opinion, that'll be my recommendation for mobile games. I'm going weekly through quite a lot of them, and you'll see I sometimes do tutorials if I think that the game is quite interesting. Sometimes I'm just deleting it because it turns out to be another clone of another rubbish. But all sorts of games like AFK, Journey, for example, with big maps, like kind of like Diablo, those type of games really help for you to increase your perception, which then where you use that. Whenever you travel and you are in the new city, you just stop being lost or stop being confused where you were, because you start noticing details which normally your brain wouldn't pick on. I've realized that when I moved to Australia after playing Counter-Strike several years, and then I started playing different games as well, and I never got lost there. And several times I put myself, there wasn't much of night rides at that point when I was there and where I was living. I visited friends in another suburb, and I had to travel to city and then from the city. And I figured out that I'm just gonna walk down this way. 3 hours later, I was around my home, and I have never even seen the map. I just figured out that if I'm going from that way, I must walk that way, and gaming experience make me enough confident that was, I think, second week I was in new city, and I didn't know anything, and I didn't get lost. So the awareness in the map, for example, or awareness of elements like Diablo, for example. It's maybe not the best example, but nowadays you have games when you have a character and you build power. You start with 1, 2, 3, then you have 1K, then you have 100K, then you have 1,000,000, then you have 100 millions, then you have 1 billion, then you have trillion, and they shine, they have more armory and stuff. And perception of those games is that you don't really have tutorials to those games. You need to figure them out, or find someone who figured it out, made that tutorial, and now you're learning from a particular player, not a developer or someone from people who make the games. So if you play those kind of games, the moment you install a new one, you roughly know what to do, and how deep it will go down the rabbit hole in terms of connecting all the additional bonuses you can discover, which nobody talks anywhere, and you don't have red dots to do them. Like the game sometimes suggests what is to do and gives you like a red dot. I love those games because first of all it connects you with people. Second of all, it encourages you to actually to dig for the knowledge and to interact, which for me, as a Polish person, which when I was living in Poland 30 years ago, nearly, we haven't had many cultures. I moved to Melbourne when there was a Babel Tower, with Babel Tower with so many different cultures, and it was so overwhelming and as well inspiring. And it's just different cultures think so much differently, and it's so cool to learn all those things. And I find games as a beautiful platform, because in one clan you can have 30 people from the globe, and you throw one concept and they all respond differently, and each one of them is correct. I love that, and that's why I love gaming. And ultimately, I find, I had today a conversation with one of my students who, she's kind of against games. Her partner is playing games, and she doesn't really understand why it's happening, because he's an adult, she's an adult, and I try to relate to my experiences outside of the fact that gaming and dancing for me privately, they saved my life, and it was like a massive therapy, and they still are, and also a platform for me to work on myself and share my achievements with others, to inspire and to help them to go through their bad days and to fight with their demons. But ultimately, next to martial arts and roller skating, which I did for long years, next to breakdancing and now dancing, which sort of developed my physical abilities and my physical confidence, the brain work, I must say, after reading books and learning and studying in uni and stuff like that, the games made me who I am. And I can tell you, driving, I used to drive a really nice sport car in a really stupid manner. 20 years later now I can say it, but I can tell you that what I've learned through Counter-Strike saved my ass behind the wheel so many times, just because the perception I got and the quickness and the ability to not shit my diaper and make the right call when you have split seconds to make decision. And I'm gonna fight and defend and protect games, because I think, outside of the fact that it really, dopamine, and it makes us feel good because it rewards us and our skills and efforts and stuff, and we get better with that, and we get better rewards, and we like it. It's a safe zone which gives us and rewards us and makes us feel cool. Don't get too excited about it. This is to encourage your process of growth. Okay, I need you to start thinking this way, because then games actually become simulators, and it can be a simulator of your reaction, eye to finger, for example, which you can use later at work, or whenever you're driving, or whenever you need that kind of coordination. You can explore this coordination, obviously, much longer, much wider. We're just talking about a few particular examples, but ultimately every game, the dumbest game, like if you look from the mechanics point of view, will give you a skill. Now, how you can utilize that skill elsewhere, it's your imagination. And I inspire people to grow and be aware of the fact that they can, even at home, by playing BeatStar. You don't really feel it, but when you come back to that extreme song after a couple of months, eventually this song becomes easy. And if you recall yourself a year, 2 years before, when you were struggling with it, and when you couldn't, when you get angry and all that, that's when you realize that you're wasting shitloads of time daily getting that, and you can just relax, create yourself, or find a platform when you can do that, practice this. So ultimately, if you want to be a good gamer, you need to practice your brain to be better, to be quicker, not to so you won't be able to get overwhelmed quickly or easily. So you want to create situations under pressure, and the best creating under pressure situation stimulator is when you join a clan or alliance and you play a war, and there's a responsibility on you that you're not gonna F things up. And that's when, in positive manner, you learn responsibility and ultimately discipline. Because Hellraiser, the guy who threw that grenade, he will remember until the last day, after 2 years of us grinding his ass. Oh my god, hell, noob, 2000, man, like he will always remember that. And then the training he had after that for a couple of weeks to throw a grenade in the right window. He's a master. There isn't a better player who will throw a better grenade than him from now on. You know what I mean? So games can be a beautiful time waster and beautiful if you're doing it like a fucking donkey and you just waste your time, or being a hater and you hate. Yeah, while we're here, guys, when you spend money, why would you become a bully or like a idiot? Like, how, why would you promote in such a way that you need help and you're doing shit with while you're having so much money? Like, what's wrong with you? You know, and the reason why I'm going to ask you this, and I know that not many people even will reach this element of movie because the attention span is like 5 seconds and we're halfway through, and you'll have to be gutsy to survive the last half an hour. But why won't you, like, if you spend, why won't you help others? Like, why won't you want to be a villain and you pay for it? You're becoming a villain, you're ultimately killing a server, and you always, people in, I've seen it so many times, you like in the last one of the last shorts, there's a guy, he dumped $30,000 in a game. He's not a villain, he's a superhero. He talks to everybody, he helps everybody, and his server is fucking active, and they kicking us, they beating everybody including us, like they own the game. He's not an ass. You see, if you're not an asshole, you're gonna kill your server, because we don't come to games to massage your fucked up ego and your unfixed traumas. Like, we all have problems, but why would you waste money and ultimately waste other people's game and waste that money because you end up on that server and it's so long that you cannot get that money back? So it's a waste. Like, it's 5, 10, $50,000 just into dumpster. What's the point? Like, why won't you spend 1,000 or 2,000, maybe 5? Let's go 10, and like knock yourself out with an amazing psychologist who will just sort your shit, so you don't have to be such a toxic person, and then you can be nicer, so you can actually all enjoy gaming, right? So when you spend, don't be an ass. If you don't want to be superhero, just be neutral. But you spending, you being a douche, you're gonna kill the server, you're gonna kill the game, and is it worth it? I will probably edit it, or maybe not, or maybe fuck it. Maybe you need to hear that because nobody talks about those things, and maybe someone should try. Anyway, to wrap things up, to be a good gamer, time of reaction, perception, coordination. Train however you want. You can do dancing, you can do martial arts, you can do roller skating for some of those things. You can do normal shooting, like when you have ability to go and shoot things in the forest or on a range, you know. This is all transferable to other aspects of your life, and it's very important that you're aware, especially if you're a young child, young kid, and you're thinking about a career in gaming, which we are right now still too stupid to realize what kind of like 10 years you're gonna have a virtual Olympics with gamers coming from across globe, or not even. Everything will be via internet and virtual reality. Like, we don't think about it, but it's going to happen. Ready Player One, have you seen that movie? I'm waiting for it. It's like sitting next to me. I can touch it, I can smell it. Same like YouTube. Like, it's our generation, we're not really aware of what this thing is bringing into our lives, and how YouTube is going to be utilized in 20 years, for example. So with this positive accent, I'm gonna wrap things up. Let me know what you think. Should I dig in more into this topic? I will probably anyway. So if you have more questions, or you want to guide me through which way should I go with the next one, just drop it in comments. Other than that, thanks for your watching, especially until this moment. Take care. Bye bye.